Is there such a thing as the perfect lineup of tomatoes to plant throughout an entire season? I'm talking cherries, I'm talking heirlooms, I'm talking weird, I'm talking slicers. I think I have it, at least for this season. So in this video, I'm gonna go through every single one I'm planting and why. We're gonna start off with the smallest tomatoes and then go towards the largest size and talk about all the different categories. And I've got a couple options in each, starting off with cherry tomatoes. For a fresh eating cherry tomato, something that probably isn't really gonna make it into the kitchen. Even if it does, it's not going to last very long, but the flavor's intense. It is the Sun Gold cherry. If you have to grow one, grow the Sun Gold. Of course, we carry it at our seed company, Botanical Interests, but it's rare in grocery stores. It's hard to find. And the reason why is because it does not have a long shelf life. I found the skin is very prone to cracking or breaking, especially if you overwater it or harvest it at the wrong time or just leave it on the counter or in the sun for a little bit. It will crack and break, but that's fine. I'll pay that price all day because it is, to me, one of the best tasting cherry tomatoes you're ever going to find. Now, you'll sometimes see it in these small little packs. It's because, guys, this seed, speaking now as someone who owns a seed company, this is a very expensive seed. And so you gotta be careful with it, cherish it when you buy it and treat it with respect. But here we go. We're gonna go in with Sun Gold. The thing that I think is so cool about them, it's prolific, it's not that hard to grow, and it really just has that flavor, that sweet, sort of classic, vibrant summer tomato flavor. In this particular case, I'll do one per hole because, like I said, these are not cheap seeds. So in I go. I'm gonna do 6 because I always have friends who want a Sun Gold tomato. Yeah, you wanna give these support because they are gonna grow pretty extensively. Florida Weave is a great way to grow these guys. But if you have to grow one cherry, I would say grow the Sun Gold. The final tip I'll give you is that if you wanna make sure it doesn't crack, you can pick it just a little bit early and then just ripen it on the kitchen counter. Gives you another buffer of like 2 days or so. Next cherry, and the last cherry I have for you, going back to the classics, this would be the Super Sweet 100. The name tells you everything you need to know. I actually find it to be a little bit less sweet than the Sun Gold, but I do find it to be a classic red cherry tomato that is absolutely one of the most prolific you will ever grow. I mean, you can see the trusses on this plant. They do not lie. The name does not lie. You can get upwards of 100 tomatoes per truss, and it's just a reliable plant that has a lot of good disease resistance built into it. So if you struggle with fusarium wilt or some of these soil-borne diseases, let's just say this, you're gonna have an easier time with the Super Sweet 100. It's an F1 hybrid variety, meaning that it is not an heirloom. It is something that's been crossed and bred by humans in a traditional way. And that means that traditionally when you're breeding, you're gonna try to breed some disease resistance into it. So if you have trouble with diseases, go with the Super Sweet 100, or if you just prefer a red cherry to the orange Sun Gold, well, there you go. And now we're done with cherries and it's on to grape tomatoes. Okay, grape tomatoes. Admittedly, not a category that I've grown a lot of, mostly because I feel like I can get the job done with the cherry, but sometimes, you want that grape tomato in a salad, or you just like the shape of it, or you have a different particular use for it, and I can't open this flap. So maybe even the universe itself is telling me, don't grow this grape tomato. But this one is 5-star grape. It's an F1 hybrid again. I'm gonna have some heirlooms for you as well. But yeah, I mean, guys, it's a disease-resistant grape tomato, which is a little bit larger than your standard cherry. Shape's a little bit more elongated. The seed's actually quite a bit larger. And it's just gonna have some quality disease resistance and a reliable grower. It kind of gets to, back in the day, I used to grow really unique, crazy varieties of tomatoes. Things like the Atomic Grape and some of these really wild colored ones. I was growing more for the aesthetic. These days, and this might change, but these days, I am growing more for performance. I want delicious tomatoes. I want things that aren't gonna cause me a lot of problems. I don't have to babysit them in the garden. And to me, something like the 5-star grape F1 does the job for me. But that's it for the small tomatoes. Now we're going into what I call the salad or the sandwich slicer category. The first one is Mountain Magic. So again, trying to go for those performers, something that's just going to reliably work in the garden. It's nothing too fancy. It is about 1 to 3 inch red tomato, nice size, nice performance, it just works, guys. It just works. It's disease resistant to a few of the more common ones. Again, this one's a hybrid. We carry this one at Botanical, but I've grown this. I grew this last year. It does really, really well. And if you want, I think if you're a gardener who's just looking for success, get these sort of classics, do them really well, and then maybe throw another one in the mix that's a little bit out there, or maybe it's orange, maybe it's striped, etc. And then you know you have one that's going to work for you, and then you can experiment with one that's maybe going to be a little bit more visually appealing or a little bit more fun. And if you are in an area of the country that has inclement weather right now, like myself, honestly, I'm starting tomatoes later than I've ever started them in my gardening career. Well, then this one's for you. This one's called Glacier. This is one that I've grown for many, many years. It really enjoys a early start to the season, hence the name. It is a, let's see, 55-day variety, and it is extremely cold tolerant. The variety is out of Sweden originally, so as the name implies, you think it can handle these colder temps. So if you're in an area that's just not been kicking off as quickly as it has in prior years, which honestly is us. I've gotten about 10 inches of rain here in San Diego, and last year alone, I only got about 6. So I'm almost double what I got last year in the first 3 months of this year, which is pretty wild. So this is an early season tomato. If you are in a season, just an uncommonly short season, like you're in a zone 2 or 3 or 4, you can pull this one off because you got 55 days, so you can still grow this. So it works really, really well. So that is my last slicer category tomato. Many of us just love tomatoes in sauce, pasta sauce, pizza sauce, etc. And if you do, I've got 2 paste style tomatoes for you. These are tomatoes that are much more suited to be broken down into a tomato sauce. And there's no better one, truly, in the world than the San Marzano. Now, there's some debate, obviously, what counts as a San Marzano tomato. It's sort of one of those DOP type of things where you can't call it champagne unless it's grown in Champagne type of thing. I don't know exactly where I quite stand on that. I mean, I think genetically, if you're looking at the same seed, yes, there's some difference in the terroir of the soil, but look, it's a paste tomato. It's from the same genetic line as the original San Marzano. That's good enough for me here in San Diego, California. And I'm sure it's probably good enough for you wherever you're watching this video. So as I've started to bake and cook more, I've been making pasta, I've been making homemade pizza. A paste tomato or a processing style sauce tomato has been really, really important for me to grow. And I grew them in the past, but I just wasn't processing them that much. So I kind of ate them as normal. So San Marzano, and then I have another one for you. If you either can't get your hands on San Marzano or you want to grow something just a little bit different, and that would be the Amish paste. Really, when you're looking at a sauce tomato, you want to look for those paste style tomatoes. They are thick, they are meaty, they are deep red, and they're sort of big. So you can kind of process them and you actually get a lot of bang for your buck on each of the fruits. Amish paste is another one that we've grown that we've had a lot of success with. It's very, very productive. And again, you just get a huge amount of delicious fruit that you can then just process down. And I've done really simple tomato sauces. I've done more involved tomato sauces. Probably the simplest one I did was I actually even included the skins. I didn't even boil it, blanch off the skin, and then sort of process it and then simmer it down. I just put all the tomatoes in a pot and sort of simmered them all the way down, and it worked really, really fine. So Amish paste and San Marzano make my top 2 for a sauce style tomato. Let's get into the greenhouse. I'm gonna take my jacket off. It is toasty in here as we move into the more heirloom or beefsteak tomatoes. These are some of the ones you really think about when you think about growing tomatoes yourself. And why don't we start out with one of our own here. This is the Cherokee Carbon. I'm gonna read you the back of the packet because this is really encapsulates what this tomato is all about. What do you get when you cross the 2 tomato favorites, Cherokee Purple, we all know that one, and then Carbon, a tomato lover's dream with heirloom flavor earlier in the season, important, increased production, less cracks, less blemishes. It is a huge tomato, 10 to 12 ounces, purple. It's a beefsteak style, and it's literally award winning. It has won many, many awards. So if you want sort of an heirloom, but without some of the potential weaknesses of the heirloom, which would be the Cherokee Purple, get the Cherokee Carbon. It's a cross, it's a hybridized cross. It's a little bit more resistant to a couple different things, a little bit more vigor going to it. but it still looks and tastes very, very good. Some might even say better than the Cherokee Purple, but I'll leave that up to you as you go ahead and grow it this year in the garden. So when you get into these style of tomatoes, these are the ones where you can have the most fun, in my opinion. There's a lot of different sizes, shapes, colors, striping, flavor profiles, but I'm trying to go again this year with some classics. And this is just a little bit of an updated version on arguably one of the most classic heirloom tomatoes of all time, which would be Cherokee Purple. Next one I have for you in the beefsteak world is possibly one of the most beautiful ones, and it's aptly named. That would be Beauty King. This one's out of Wild Boar Farms. Many of you might know Wild Boar because of the atomic grape, Brad's atomic grape, one of his more famous varieties. Personally, that one is not one of my favorites, but what is one of my favorites is Beauty King. Let me just make sure I've done this right. I have. Beauty King is hands down one of the prettiest beefsteaks that I've ever grown. I've grown it for 2 years now. The flavor's amazing. It's a red and yellow striped bicolor tomato with really delicious, juicy flesh, and it can get up to 20 ounces. So you can get over a pound on this guy. You'll be very pleased if you're trying to grow a large tomato. And we grew, a few years back, I would say about 16 different types of beefsteaks in a Florida weave system here in the backyard of the homestead. And this one far and away was in the top 1 or 2 of those beefsteaks. So, tried a lot, really expanded, and then contracted down to some varieties that I really liked. And Beauty King is one of those. It's a cross between, I believe, a Rainbow Star and then a classic heirloom, the Green Zebra. So you have a hybridized cross of 2 other gorgeous beefsteaks with this one. The final beefsteak that I have for you is one of the most beautifully shaped ones with a very pleasing name. It is Castelluto Genovese, obviously an Italian variety. Now this one just looks spectacular. It sort of has these fluted sides, which I have not showcased yet in this collection. And it really is a gorgeous, gorgeous tomato. And I would say the flavor is good to great, but it is not absolutely stellar. The reason I put this in the mix is because I already have some really delicious beefsteaks in Cherokee Carbon and in Beauty King. I wanted something that is still top tier in flavor, but does not necessarily blow you away, but does when it comes to the look, appearance, and color. It is this beautiful deep red. You can slice it thinly, you can lay it down on a plate with some mozzarella or something like that, and it absolutely looks like you made it at a Michelin star restaurant, without a doubt. One of the best tomatoes that you will ever grow in the heirloom or beefsteak category. And that does conclude the heirloom or beefsteak category. And now I want to get into some weird tomatoes. In this little packet right here, I have, some might say, the original tomato species. This is Solanum pimpinellifolium, or the current tomato. The seeds are tiny. They're sometimes a little bit difficult to find. Hopefully we can bring them to you guys at Botanical Interests pretty soon. But for now, let's just say I sourced these through interesting methods. But the current tomato is the smallest tomato in the world. It is absolutely tiny. It sort of has a more wild, sort of bushy, kind of overgrowth look to the actual vegetation. But when it comes to the plants or the fruit is tiny, almost like little, little candies. They're like the size of a Skittle perhaps. And why do I find this so interesting is that I simply want an oddball tomato. You can pick tons of these. They'll grow almost like a wild tomato, and you can just pick them and pop them into your mouth, or you can collect a bunch of them. You can throw them as almost like a jeweled tomato on top of a salad. They taste decently acidic, a little pop of sweet, but certainly not as sweet as some of these other varieties. Oftentimes described sort of as like a wine type of taste. So to me, a really unique one, conversation starter for sure. And if you do like to experiment in the kitchen, it is one that you could have a lot of fun with. So this is Solanum pimpinellifolium, also known as the currant tomato. The next weird one I have for you is weird because you actually don't want the tomatoes off of this plant, off of this tomato plant. You don't want the tomatoes. How could that be? Well, that's because I'm talking about the Fortamino rootstock variety. Now, rootstock, when you hear about that, you're talking mostly about the world of orcharding, when you're growing an apple and grafting an M111 rootstock on it or something like that. Maybe citrus. Most citrus these days, of course, is grafted. Avocados, grafted. Well, what is grafting? Well, what you're doing is you're saying, I like the roots of this variety and I like the fruits of this variety. So I'm going to take these roots and these fruits, put them together, and there you go. I have this sort of Frankenstein plant that gives me benefits both above and below ground. And so that's what I'm talking about here with the Fortamino rootstock. It's grown for its root system. Just realized I ran out of space, but what you want to do is plant as many of these as you have tomato varieties, as you have tomato plants. And then what you'll do is as these ones grow and as these ones grow, you will take the top of this one and graft it to the bottom of the Fortamino rootstock. We'll do a full video on this, but this gets into some more advanced techniques, certainly, and you don't have to do it. Like I mentioned, these tomatoes that I've selected, they all have improved disease resistance, vigor, etc. But if you really want to go crazy with this, you're going to get more flowers, more vigor on the truss or the area of the tomato that is throwing out all those flowers. You're going to get improved disease resistance. There's also going to be more leaves around the entire plant itself to prevent sun scald in the heat of the summer. So the Fortamino rootstock is almost like a cheat code for tomatoes. You can say, hey, I want this flavor, but it doesn't have all these nice features. I'm going to go ahead and put it in the Fortamino, and there you go. You have this sort of Frankenstein, beautiful superhero of a tomato plant. These are my tomato varieties that I think make up the perfect 2023 tomato lineup. Where do you think I missed the boat? Do you think I'm spot on? Let me know down in the comments. Roast my selection. And remember, you can always grab our seeds at Botanical Interests, which is now a company that we own here at Epic Gardening. So incredible honor to own that company and take it forward, and appreciate your guys' support, because that's the only reason that we're able to do this type of work. So until next time, good luck in the garden and keep on growing.